At the time of recording this video, the Mattel Creations Masters of the Universe Origins Eternia playset has been fully funded, and the first tier for the Moat creature has been unlocked. This has been a very successful campaign, and while more than 8,000 collectors have enthusiastically backed this project, I still stand by my comments that this playset is overpriced. The success of this campaign is setting a precedent for the future of action figure collecting, and in my humble opinion, we're getting eternally screwed. Stay tuned.
Come with me, toy fans.
Hey toy fans, my name is Tony and welcome back to the Analog Toys YouTube channel. Now, a lot of other YouTubers have made the comparison between the price of this Mattel Creations Eternia playset and the MOTU Origins Castle Grayskull. And what they've done, they've taken the price of the original items that were sold back in the 80s and compared them to today. In the 80s, there was like a 350% price difference. Today, it's a lot more than that. And a lot of the channels who are making these comments, I think they're right on the money. The people who I don't think are on the money are the YouTube channels out there who are telling you that you can't compare the two because of a lower order quantity, an MOQ, a minimum order quantity. Because the channels that are saying that you can't compare the Eternia playset to the Grayskull playset because of a lower MOQ are completely ignoring the fact that the Grayskull playset was sold wholesale to retail chains, whereas the Mattel Creations Eternia is a direct-to-consumer product. And that just increases the price gap between these two playsets, because there's no way in the world that Mattel is selling the MOTU Origins Grayskull playset to retailers for 80 bucks and then the retailers are selling them for $80. The retailers have to make money. It's more likely that Mattel is selling the Castle Grayskull to retailers at, I would say, $55, let's say $60. In addition to that, Mattel has to ship these items to all of these retailers, and that shipping is absorbed into the cost of the item. On the other hand, the Eternia playset, they are not selling these at a wholesale price. It's a full-blown retail price, direct to consumer. They're cutting out the middleman, and the consumer is picking up the cost of shipping, which if you live internationally, well, good luck, $200–300, half the cost of the playset on shipping alone. By doing it via a crowdfunding campaign, Mattel is taking out all of the risk away from themselves, putting that risk in the hands of the consumer, but they're also testing the waters to see what the consumer will pay. Recently, Hasbro announced their new kind of strategy going forward for how the company was going to increase profits by 50%. And one of the key factors that they're going to employ is direct-to-consumer products. Items that are sold straight to the consumer through websites like Hasbro Pulse. And they're doing this because by cutting out the middleman, they're not selling the items at wholesale. They're getting the full-blown retail price, and the consumer is picking up the cost of the shipping. Now, after more than 2 years of a global pandemic that severely crippled the economies of countries all across the world, inflation has increased, materials have increased, shipping costs have increased. I'm aware of all of that. And when it comes to Hasbro, those increases have already been passed on to the consumer. We've had 3 price hikes for the vast majority of their action figures over the last 12 to 18 months. 3 price hikes to absorb these increased prices. And now the company is announcing this strategy of direct to consumer to increase profits, when what they could have done is gone straight to the direct to consumer model and used that where they go from, the wholesale cost straight to a retail cost. And rather than trying to generate 50% more profit, they could have used that model to absorb those increased prices rather than passing them on to the consumer. But they have passed 3 price hikes on to us. And now in addition to that, they're going to change the way they sell some of our favorite action figures to further increase profits. So how did I go from talking about the Mattel Creations Eternia playset and then kind of go down this Hasbro rabbit hole? Well, what am I getting at here? Well, Mattel is clearly modeling the Eternia playset off of Hasbro's HasLab model. It is a large, expensive item that is crowdfunded over a set period of time with a requirement to get a minimum number of backers before it can go into production. There's an early bird tier, there are unlocked tiers. It's exactly the same as a HasLab. Mattel is looking at what Hasbro's doing over there going, we want some of that. Granted, the current HasLab for the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider car is not doing well, and everyone's saying it's because it's overpriced. Well, Eternia is overpriced too, But the big difference here is that Eternia is a highly desirable item for Masters of the Universe collectors. The original vintage item was sold in extremely limited numbers. There are very few complete examples left around today, and they go for an extortionate price. So Mattel is very cleverly tapping into the emotions of the vintage collector, the Masters of the Universe enthusiast who really, really wants this item. Whereas with the HasLab Ghost Rider, there's nowhere near as many, Robbie Reyes fans out there as there is fans of the original Masters of the Universe toy line. Had this have been a Fantastica or an X-Jet or something like that, it wouldn't matter if those items were overpriced. That HasLab, I believe, would have funded almost immediately. I really have no interest whether this campaign is funded or not. Eternia, while I'm a vintage Master of the Universe fan, Eternia is not something that I've ever really wanted. I've said in many, many videos that one of the reasons I collect vintage toys is I really view these items as modern day pop art. So when I take an item like Eternia, which in my opinion, if you're going to relate it to pop art, it looks like a Jackson Pollock that someone vomited all over. I think it's a really ugly playset, so I couldn't really care less. And I don't have anything against anyone who really wants this playset. Everyone's got their personal choice. I don't like it. A lot of you, for a lot of vintage Master of the Universe collectors out there, it might be the only item that they don't own, and now they're going to be able to get an Origins version. And that's great. And if you're willing to accept the fact that you're paying through the nose, for an item that's probably only worth, $3 to $3.50 and you're paying $4.50 for it, that's fine. I've overpaid for items before. Hey, if you love it, you buy it. I've got no issue with that. It is important to understand though that this will set a precedent. From this moment forward, all Masters of the Universe Origins items are going to go up in price. Mark my words, they're going to. Unless, of course, Mattel thinks cleverly and kind of takes a leaf out of Hasbro's book and just goes direct to consumer. And rather than giving us price increases at retail, just cut out the middleman, don't sell the items at wholesale, sell them direct to consumer. I mean, the distribution's so bad anyway that we may as well just buy everything online. So sell them direct to consumer, maximize your profit, and do that before you have to lump 2 or 3 price increases onto your customers over the next 12 months. In the last few days, Hasbro released their quarterly results and things are on a downturn. Net revenue for the quarter was down 15% from the third quarter of 2021. And Hasbro CEO Chris Cox said this was because Hasbro has seen the average consumer become increasingly price sensitive as the year has progressed, impacting point of sales trends. Hasbro's CEO also stated at the investor presentation that Blueprint 2.0 would be the biggest change in Hasbro's underlying business strategy. And they have plans to focus on fewer, bigger and more profitable toy brands. And it's really interesting to note that the brands he mentioned in this investor presentation are all ones that are owned by Hasbro and not ones that they license from other companies. The bigger brands that Hasbro plans to focus on are Magic the Gathering, Hasbro Gaming, Nerf, Dungeons & Dragons, Transformers, Peppa Pig and Play-Doh. Notice that there was no mention of Marvel, Star Wars, Indiana Jones or anything like that. And while this doesn't bode well for the modern action figure collector from brands that are produced by Hasbro, this could be a good thing for Masters of the Universe fans because Mattel owns that brand. They don't pay a licensing fee when they produce Masters of the Universe product. It's going to be really interesting to see how the landscape of modern action figure collecting plays out over the next 12 to 24 months. When you have a company like Hasbro admitting that there are strategies they can put in place to increase profits by using such things as a direct-to-consumer model, when they could have put that strategy in place to avoid giving the consumer 3 price hikes in 18 months. And now with fans all over the world telling Mattel that they'll pay $550 for a flimsy plastic playset that shouldn't cost any more than $300, I'm pretty sure we're going to get screwed. But anyone else out there on YouTube who's telling you that Mattel is doing you a favor by putting this toy into production and that they are not price gouging the customer, they're full of crap and they're disguising their opinions behind corporate mumbo jumbo like planograms and MOQs and nonsense like that. Until people can present some actual numbers like manufacturing costs and shipping costs, all they're trying to do is trick you into believing this item's worth the price because they're the champion of the corporation and not the consumer. But if you're honest with yourself and you know that this is overpriced, but you still want it because you're just passionate about Masters of the Universe, then I'm happy for you. Just don't go around trying to convince the rest of us that this isn't price gouging. So thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to check out some of our other videos about Masters of the Universe Origins, you can click the links up here. And don't forget to subscribe to the 3POA podcast, where I join my friends Laserpants and Bobby Valor every other Saturday, where we talk all about current toy action figure news. I'm Tony from Analog Toys, and I'll see you in the next video.